Did you know that there's a kind of fat inside your body that you should actually love, not hate? White fat is the kind that we really don't like. It's the double chin, the muffin top, the fat on the thighs, the fat in the butt. But there is a kind of fat inside your body that we actually want. That fat burns calories instead of stores them. We know this from clinical studies. Certain foods can help activate this fat-burning system and help you reduce your waistline and get rid of visceral fat. The beneficial fat I'm talking about, it's called. So, for years, we've been taught to think of fat as an enemy that we want to get rid of. But biologically, fat is not all the same. In fact, we've got different kinds of fat in our body. We've got white fat and we've got brown fat, and we even have something called beige fat. And these colors actually tell us what the kind of fat looks like under the microscope. So let's start with white fat. White fat is a kind that we really don't like. It's the double chin. It's the kind of fat that's under the arm, the muffin top, the fat on the thighs, the fat in the butt. White fat stores energy from the calories that we eat. So when you eat a lot of food, you actually build up storage. It's kind of the fuel tank for our nutrition of what we're eating, the energy, and it gets stored into white fat. Some white fat is necessary because we want our fuel tanks to be full of fuel to power us up. But when you have too much white fat, it builds up, and when it builds up, it can be a problem. Where is it a real problem for your health? It's actually not something you can see outside on the edges of your body, but the most dangerous kind of excess harmful white fat is deep inside your body. It's in the tube of your body, in your belly, around your viscera, your intestines, and it's called visceral fat. Visceral fat is a dangerous kind of white fat. Visceral fat's linked to metabolic disease. It's linked to heart disease, and it's even linked to more than 14 different types of cancer. So, yes, we do want to reduce excess fat, white fat, especially visceral fat. What about brown fat? Brown fat is completely different. Instead of storing energy, calories from the food that we eat, brown fat actually burns down energy. It burns down the fuel. It's like turning a burner on the stovetop. You know, you turn on the switch, click, 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 whoosh, it fires up, and it can draw down on that stored energy, just like your stovetop draws on the gas that coming from, a storage tank or outside of your house. And as it burns down the fuel, you're actually generating heat, and it increases the energy use in your body. In the body, when your brown fat fires up, it's actually turning up your metabolism. And where does it get the energy from? The fuel from the brown fat gets it from your white fat, especially the visceral fat. So, this is a battle of fat. Fat versus fat. Brown fat versus white fat. Good fat versus bad fat. All right? And it actually is fighting. The brown fat is fighting the type of fat that can harm your metabolism. One kind brown fat can help your metabolism. The other kind actually harms your metabolism. So you want to actually have and turn on your brown fat. Now, I want to actually go a little bit deeper, and let's tell you what's inside the brown fat. Brown fat is not wiggly and jiggly, that's white fat. You know, the stuff under your arm. Brown fat is actually wafer thin, and it's not on the surface. You can see it's actually pressed close to your muscle. All right? And it's very, very metabolically active. Located deep inside your body. Where is brown fat located? On both sides of your neck, behind your breastbone, between your shoulder blades, and there's a little bit in your abdomen, your belly. Why is brown fat called brown? Well, because under the microscope it actually looks brown. Brown fat is packed with mitochondria. These are the power packs of all cells. But in brown fat, it's packed with them, right? It actually burns down fuel, generates energy, generates heat. So it's got a lot of mitochondria. Well, guess what? The mitochondria, which produce energy in brown fat, they actually contain a lot of iron. So iron will oxidize as the brown fat fires up. Just like anything that's iron, like a pile of nails that you leave out on your porch over, the weekend, what's going to happen later on is that the nails are going to oxidize and they're going to rust and turn brown. It's exactly what happens to the iron, mitochondria, the power packs that are loaded up in your brown fat, because they're actually burning the fuel. So that's why brown fat is called brown, because it's got mitochondria with iron that's oxidized. What happens when you activate your brown fat? How does it actually burn fuel? Well, guess what? When you trigger the brown fat to start drawing down fuel, it's like turning on the gas burner on your range. Click, 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 whoosh. It's pulling in energy, okay? It's taking fuel from the white fat, harmful fat, visceral fat, moving that fuel in and burning it up. And how is it burning? Well, it's actually putting it using that fuel to fire up the mitochondria. Mitochondria generate energy, and it generates heat. And this process of heat generation from burning down the fuel from excess body fat is called thermoenesis. Thermo-heat temperature genesis, you're generating heat. Heat production. Let me back up a second. White fat, the wiggly jiggly stuff that you don't want to have, actually stores the fuel, the energy from the calories that we eat. That's white fat. And brown fat will draw from that when you trigger it to burn it down. Okay? Again, your body is equipped with this system designed to burn down energy from stored calories. Hi, I'm Dr. William Lee. Most people think that if their weight isn't changing, nothing is happening with their metabolism, but that's actually not true. And this is where a lot of people get misled. Your body can be getting healthier, reducing harmful fat, and building muscle at the same time, even if the number on the scale stays the same. And that's because not all fat is the same. One of the most important types of fat to understand is called visceral fat. Visceral fat surrounds your internal organs and plays a major role in inflammation, in poor metabolism, and in increasing disease risk. Higher levels of visceral fat are associated with cardiovascular disease, with insulin resistance, and even cancer, and most people have no idea what their visceral fat levels actually are. Here's a problem. You can't track visceral fat with a regular weight scale. Two people can weigh exactly the same but have completely different levels of visceral fat and therefore very different health outcomes. You can lose weight without significantly reducing your visceral fat, and you can improve metabolic health without major changes in body weight. And that's why I emphasize focusing on your body composition and not just your body weight. This is where the HumePod comes in. It's a portable home body analyzer that uses the same bioelectrical impedance technology that's used in clinical settings with about 98% accuracy. It measures your entire body, not just below your waist. To use it, you step on the pod and you pull the handle. It's that easy. In the Hum app, you can track over 40 different metrics, including your visceral fat. And over time, you can actually see how your habits are impacting your health long term. Because improving your health isn't about guessing, it's about understanding what your body actually needs. You can track real changes in your body composition and know if what you're doing is actually working, so you can catch those changes early, even before they show up on the scale. This is the approach that I recommend for people who want a more precise, data-driven approach to improving their metabolic health. You can learn more by clicking on the link below. There's up to 50% off with my code Dr. William Lee for the next 7 days. Food as medicine can be used to activate your brown fat. What's an example of this? Well, I'll tell you. Chili peppers, chili flakes, fresh chilies, dried chilies, chili sauce. That heat that you feel when you have chilies, that comes from a bioactive, a natural chemical that's found in chili peppers called capsaicin. C-A-P-S-A-I-C-I-N. Capsaicin. Now, why does it actually cause that zing in your mouth, the burn? Well, that chemical actually binds to receptors, okay, that are on your tongue. All right, so it's sort of the catcher's mitt waiting for the capsaicin to activate it, and it sends a signal from your tongue to your brain, okay? And you sense the zing, the burn, the heat, right? But from your brain, that signal, kind of like a text message to your brain, sends down neurotransmitters that then activate your brown fat around your neck, behind your chest, to all the places that exist. So if you enjoy spicy food, imagine this. Eating spicy food actually helps turn up your metabolism by burning down extra harmful body fat by turning on your brown fat. Before I go into the rest of these foods, if you're interested in using food to improve your metabolism and your overall health, consider subscribing to my channel because this is where I share the science of food as medicine in ways that you can actually apply in your everyday life. Now let's look at 4 of my favorite foods that activate brown fat. Starting my countdown now with food number 4, and that's coffee. I drink coffee every morning. It wakes me up, it gives me energy, and it also helps my metabolism by activating my brown fat. How does it do this? Well, coffee contains caffeine, of course, but it also contains polyphenols like chlorogenic acid. Now, both caffeine and chlorogenic acid stimulate brown fat and triggers thermogenesis, fires up the mitochondria. So, drinking coffee helps burn down harmful excess visceral fat. We know this from clinical studies. In fact, one study of over 500 men and women in Indonesia looked at coffee and found that coffee consumption was associated with lower body fat and smaller waist circumference. Remember I told you that visceral fat is stuffed in the tube of your body. When you burn down visceral fat, your waist circumference shrinks. Now, what's interesting is that this benefit was seen even with decaffeinated coffee. So I told you caffeine will light up brown fat, but actually there's other polyphenols. So you've removed the caffeine, you still got those other polyphenols, it still lights up brown fat. So even decaf coffee can have metabolic benefits. Food number 3, white beans. Here's something that you might not have expected, that white beans, a very simple food, has a powerful effect on brown fat. Now, I love beans. There's so many ways to actually cook with beans, and beans are a great source of fiber, which is good for your gut microbiome. And we know the protein is important, and it turns out that beans are a good source of plant-based proteins. But studies have shown that eating beans can actually help to reduce waist size, which is burning down that visceral fat by activating brown fat. In fact, one study from the University of Toronto looked at adults who ate 5 cups of beans per week and found that it could reduce their waist size by about an inch over the course of a month. Now, waist size is a good marker of visceral fat, and beans are a good way to actually activate your gut, help to promote muscle maintenance with protein. And now you can add fat fighting as a way of showing the benefit of eating beans. Food number 2, onions. Onions are part of the allium family along with scallions, shallots, and garlic. They're staple in traditional Mediterranean cuisine, healthy cuisine, and traditional Asian cuisine, another healthy cuisine. So what's inside an onion that actually is useful for burning down fat? Well, a really powerful polyphenol is called quercetin. That's in onions, especially in the outer layer of the onions. It's anti-inflammatory, but quercetin also activates brown fat. In fact, a clinical study from Korea looked at an onion extract that came from the outer layers of the onion in people who had metabolic syndrome, right? So this is pre-diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood lipids, a big waistline, high blood sugars. And after 12 weeks of eating an extract from onions derived really from the outer layers of the onion, the participants lost weight. They reduced their waist size, again, burning down visceral fat, and they improve their metabolic markers. The next time you're using onions and you're peeling off that papery outside of an onion, here's a little pro tip. Try to save as much of that outer layer of the onion as possible. Don't just like cut into it and throw out big chunks. Save that outer one, because a lot of the quercetin that activates your brown fat that can burn down harmful exospheric fat is found in those outer layers. All right, the inside layers have them too. But don't throw away, waste those outer layers. Save as much as you can. And finally, food number 1, tomatoes. One of my favorite foods. I always have tomatoes in my kitchen. I keep them in my counter. I never put them in the fridge. Never put a tomato in the fridge. All right, keep them on the counter. And tomatoes are amazing. They are rich with lycopene. Lycopene is an anti-inflammatory and anti-androgenic carotenoid. That means it lowers inflammation and it starves cancer by cutting off the blood supply. That's been shown in both lab and clinical research. But interesting, tomatoes also activate brown fat to support metabolism. In fact, one clinical study from Portugal gave young healthy women just one ripe tomato to eat every single day about an hour before lunch for a month. And guess what they found? They found that these women, just with a tomato, would lose 2.44 pounds over the month, and they had less body fat. By the way, eating the tomato also improved their blood cholesterol, and their blood sugar levels also improved. Lycopene tomato. How much does a single tomato have in terms of lycopene? Well, if you want to look at equivalence, a single tomato like these women had in a research study has about as much lycopene as 1 cup of tomato sauce or 1 heaping tablespoon of tomato paste. And the reason I'm telling you this is that maybe you don't want to eat a tomato every single day, but you want to actually swap it out with tomato sauce, or maybe you're actually going to use tomato paste to do some cooking. So I'm just showing there's many ways to actually get tomato into your diet on an everyday basis to activate your brown fat. What is the takeaway? Here it is. Fat isn't something that you should universally fear. We want to keep our fat healthy, and we want to love our brown fat. Okay, remember brown fat is part of our defense system, metabolic system. It burns down white fat. Good fat versus bad fat is part of our system to burn energy and elevate our metabolism. So the next time you have this instinct to fight your own body fat, one simple way that you might not have thought about before is just to activate your body's natural system. Activate the brown fat. And the foods that you can eat: beans, tomatoes, onions, and drink some coffee. Super easy. If you want to learn more about how to use food to support your metabolism and how to eat to beat disease, please subscribe to my channel. And if you found this video helpful, share it with somebody who you think needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next video. Dr. Lee out. Hey, if you like that video, then you're going to love this one. Check it out.